Hey, everybody. Welcome to the View from the Top podcast, where we help growth-minded men who desire momentum in their business, their family, and their finances get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. I am so glad. My name is Wally, and I'm glad you're listening in today. It's going to be a good one. And I've got the co-host or the host, whatever you are, Big A of the show with us in the house, Big A.
Wally, I'm pretty excited. This is not going to mean anything to anybody but me, but everyone knows I love to fish, and I try to go 2 or 3 mornings a week, 2 or 3 hours. I've never fished for anything other than bass. I grew up tournament fishing for 35 years, fished with my dad every week. It was bass. That was it. No crappie, no bluegill, no brim, nothing. And so my dad passed away in 2006, and I've always been a guy that wanted to go out off the banks. You know, we beat the banks to death. That's the only way my dad knew how to fish. And I said, these guys that are really good get offshore, though. They go out to the middle of the lake. They find humps, ledges, drop-offs. When I bought this new boat, it's got called Active View, and you can see the fish. Now, don't send me a bunch of hate mail and say, Big A, that's cheating. Like, I've already got hammered on that. You know, my kids are telling me, Robin's telling me that's cheating. Maybe it's cheating, but I love it. I absolutely love to watch. It's like a video game. You can see the fish. But Wally, a month ago, I found a school of striper bass. These things are huge, and there's probably 100 plus in this school, over a blown out bridge that was there before they impounded the lake. I don't know if anybody knows about it but me, but I've been killing the fish on this blown out bridge. And I guess right now I'm operating off of adrenaline. I'm on a high because I have found these fish with my Active View graph, and I'm having a blast early in the morning. I need to take you out there.
I know,
you need
man.
to catch one of these. Maybe. Okay. All right. We'll do it in the morning. In the morning, we'll go for a couple hours. That'll be fun. You had a good week?
Yeah. Hey, about your Active View, though, I will say I've been out with you once on the new boat.
Yep.
And I'm just going to be transparent for a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
say it.
I know that device is like the greatest thing since sliced bread in terms of like fishing electronics.
Right.
But I've heard you and another guy, Kurt Stowers, talk about this Active View technology. And I'm thinking like 2023 video game quality. So I go out there, and you mentioned the video game too. It's like a 1980s video game. Okay, just to be fair.
Yeah. You can't see like their eyeballs 3D
and models
their
and like see the
You're
fish
thinking,
swimming and like I don't know why in my head I was just thinking when you guys talked about it's like a video game. I'm thinking a modern video game. It's not. It's like a 1980s like the way the screen looks, right? But to you guys that fish and can read the lake, it's a huge. I get it. It's a huge deal, but
oh man,
it was funny.
So
I was like, God, your first time. I'm like, what?
I am curious.
This is lame. What is going on?
I haven't even asked you directly. I'm curious. It doesn't matter, yes or no. I'm just curious. You think that's an unfair advantage?
After seeing the video technology, no.
Okay. All right. All right.
I was thinking it was going to be, but no, man, you still got to catch the fish, just because they're there. Right. It'd be like going to a conference. Like if you go to a conference and all your customers are there, is it an unfair advantage because you go to a conference where all your customers are there and you can talk to them versus having to call them?
No.
Or fly? No, it's not. It's an advantage. We
go to conferences, right?
Yeah, it's an advantage.
Right.
So this is an advantage, and that's how I look at it. I don't think you guys are cheating yet.
All right, good. Okay, cool. Yeah. They're using it on the pro circuit. So you know what's funny is all these young guys that are in their 20s are killing these guys in their 50s and 60s because they don't want to spend the effort and the energy to learn how to use the new technology. It's a lesson learned for us. I'm considerably older, than you and much older than most people, but I want to stay on the cutting edge. I don't want to be that old guy. This is the way we've done it forever. It's like, well, change and let's do something amazing. And so as we do this podcast today, talking about some things, we're going to share some things in this podcast that you and I have messed up on royally, right? And it's learn from the landmines that we've exploded and dodge those in your own life. That is the sole purpose for doing these podcasts is hopefully you'll glean a nugget and you'll have a unfair advantage or fair advantage, whichever way you look at it, to further your life as we go forward. So, hey, I'm fired up. We're talking about parenting today.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get rolling with that, though, I do have a question for you. What has been the best, because we're talking about parenting today, that would be a great question to start off with.
Okay.
What has been the best investment, do you think, that how you invested in your kids growing up? That can obviously mean something a little different to people, but for you, and I'll answer after you answer, but like for you, what is it? What do you think is the best investment?
I think there's a couple of things related to that. I did have a moment to think about it because you asked me earlier, and I've thought about it a little bit. The best advantage you could give anyone, including your children, is introducing them to a supreme being, which for us is God. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the best advantage that our children can have, is trusting in Christ. And we raised our children in a Christian environment. And so, but pragmatically, carnally speaking, as a human, one of the things that I found was really advantageous for my kids was taking them to the businesses that I owned and letting them experience it firsthand, introducing them to how negotiations happen and how in the workplace you've got to do these things in order to retain customers or get new customers, and just letting them have firsthand experience, which also allowed me to have a lot of quality time with Brooke and Holly. And they worked in the stores and they were cleaning up or waiting on customers. And I also did that a little bit with real estate. We did a couple of little real estate deals when they were young, and they got to participate in the equity side of it as well. And they liked that. I think it whet their appetite a little bit to know how to make a little bit of money as they got older. So yeah, those are the couple things that we did. What about you?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it first and foremost is just for us, it was investing into a biblically based parenting model, right, in our family. Sure. For sure, that was number one. I think for us, and again, everyone gets to make different choices, right? Some homeschool, some public school, some private school, and everybody has reasons for each. For us, I think putting them into a private Christian school was helpful for us as parents. We kind of knew where some of our shortcomings were going to be, and for us, it was getting alignment. You're sending your kids off 8 hours a day somewhere where they're getting influenced 8 hours a day. So how do you want them being influenced? And then how much makeup work do you want to have to do on the other side of that? And maybe it was lazy on my part that I didn't want to do a whole bunch of makeup work on the back end, having to, you send somebody, listen to your teacher because they're smart and wise, but don't listen to this thing because, this thing's not, what we should believe. Well, but if they believe all these other things are right, then what, you know what I'm saying? And so I know there's lessons in there too. Obviously I have some good friends that have, their kids have gone to public school and done very well. And so it's not a comparison. It's just for us, knowing myself. I think that was a good investment for them. One of the things we did too quite a bit was we made them own their own relationships. I remember a number of times sports this showed up the most, and friendships as well. Friendships got really wonky with them as we had all girls. You did too. You had two girls. So that the drama with, especially as you got to be teenagers. Yeah, something, huh? But when it came to especially adult relationships, we really made them own the relationships. Let me give you an example. They'd be in a sports, like a volleyball team. And, say Jenna, our youngest, or Ashley, our oldest, would come home and they'd be like, hey, I'm having a problem with the coach and they're doing this thing and doing this thing. And I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. Why don't you talk to them about it? Well, then why don't you talk to them, Dad? You need to talk. And I'm like, no. And so there was a number of times where they just learned okay, I'm willing to live with it. And there was other times where they went and talked to the coach. And sometimes it turned out really well. And there was one coach in particular, with one of our daughters, that I don't think they were that mature, frankly, and it didn't go that well. Like they had a terrible season because of them wanting to, trying to approach their coach, and they did it in a good way too. They really did, and that was the only time that my daughters don't even know this. I don't know if I ever told them, but that was the only time that I went to the coach about halfway through the season, and I was like, "Hey, this is my observation." And I'm not saying it's right or true. I'm just saying this is what I'm observing. And would you consider, thinking about that? And then made a couple changes, and it got better halfway through the season. But
Mhm.
that was it. That's all I said. I didn't yell at them. I didn't scream at them. But I really wanted the girls, to be able to own the relationships and teach them how to communicate. Right? We just did a podcast on communication, and
Right.
that's just really, really important. And then I think we spent a lot of time as they got to be like 11, 12, 13, where we had them manage their own money. So we figured out when they got to be teenagers or early, like preteens, 11, 12, we figured out kind of what our out of pocket cost for them was on an average monthly basis. So everything from like, you're buying shampoo
Right.
and, they, going out with friends once in a while and, needing birthday gift for a classmate and, you know, clothing and that they want to buy and, youth group stuff at church costs money. And we just learned from some other sources that I liked the idea of my daughters not having to come to me every time when they needed money. Like, "Hey dad, I need $10. Hey dad, I need $5. Hey dad, I need money for this, need money for this." I didn't think that was like a great way. So what we did is we figured out what the amount of money was and we gave it to them at the beginning of the month. Um, like what it was going to cost them to live that month. And they had to put it in envelopes and they had to manage it. And when they ran out of coffee shop money, they couldn't go.
You know what's
And
funny is that wouldn't have worked 5 minutes for one of my girls, and I'm not going to tell which one's which, but one of them would have spent all the money the first week, and the other one would have had all the money, but a little bit at the end of the month and would have tucked it away.
They
So
would
it
have
was so
learned. They
funny.
would have
They
learned
would have learned.
eventually.
They
I'm
would
telling
have.
you. I'm
They
telling
would.
you, they would have learned. And so they did. And our girls had some of that experience. I was really grateful. There was only one time out of all of them between they were 13 and 18. One time, one of our girls came to me and was like, "Hey, I spent all my money and I really want to do this thing." And I was gracious. I was like, I don't know, it was like $25 or something. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I can help you out. So it was good. But I think back, and there's probably a few more that we could probably both think of. But I think it's healthy for all of us to think back about our children and as we're raising them now, or maybe they're kind of out of the house or getting out of the house or whatever it is. But I think it's good. It's so easy. We're going to talk a lot about today in our podcast about some of the things that we should have done different. I
Yeah.
think it's exciting, and we need to be mindful. Need to be mindful and make it encouraging for ourselves that when we do things that are helpful for our kids and celebrate those as well. So I want to touch on those quick before we get into the podcast.
Hey, I got a question about one of those.
Yeah.
The envelope system,
Hmm.
is that taken directly out of Dave Ramsey's envelope
Yeah, pretty
system? Did
much.
y'all go through that program with your kids when they were little? Because he's
Yeah.
got a program for
We
kids
didn't
as
go through
well.
it with the kids. No.
You taught that, I think, even
We
at your
taught the
church.
class when
Yeah.
they were like young teenagers, so they sat in
Mm,
it. I think they
yeah.
watched all the videos like 3 or 4 times. But
Right.
yeah, yeah,
That's cool. That's a
yeah, it was
great
good.
resource for you parents. If you're unfamiliar with Dave Ramsey, he's got a great program. Can help you learn that envelope system. It's good for adults, but it's good for the kids as
Hmm.
well. So,
For
yeah,
sure.
thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say right out of the gate, Wally, that I don't know that a lot of the things I did were right. Like when I look back now, I've got a daughter 37, I've got another daughter that's 40. Robin and I have been empty nesters for like 18 years, a long time. They've been out of the house and got families of their own now. They're great kids. But I struggled in a lot of this. And I've been a little bit nervous even to do this podcast simply because I don't want to feel two faced. I don't want to feel like I'm teaching things. Maybe I'm teaching out of my weaknesses, right, rather than out of my strengths. And so my girls were amazing girls. They've never asked us for anything. They've been self reliant. They've been very, you know, dependent on themselves and their spouses, and they've done great. But the place that I'm just going to say right out of the gate that I've struggled was probably more as they're adults than when they were children. And let me explain what I'm talking about. We'll kind of break it down. My mom and dad weren't financially able to help Robin and I, right, when we got married and we moved out. And I love them. I mean, it's no disrespect to them. A lot of parents can't. Some parents can and don't. And some parents, do a great job with this. But I didn't really have a model to go by how to parent adult children financially, primarily is what I'm speaking on right now. But Robin and I made a few good decisions. God blessed us in a couple of our businesses, and we had the ability to do some things. And to be honest, Robin has probably been better at this than I have, because I'll just get it out there and I'll say what I'm nervous about. So I want to fix things. And I lay there sometimes in bed and tell Robin, hey, I know the kids are kind of having a hard time with this or that, and I can fix that in the morning.
It's really hard, isn't it? It's really hard.
It's unbelievable.
To watch
Not just
them
financially,
go
but
through
it's some
like
of the
pain,
decisions.
right?
Yeah, or whatever it is. But like knowing that I can fix this in the morning, like I can stroke a check, all that goes away tomorrow. And Robin reminds me, the girls are going to be mad at their mother when they hear that. But Robin goes, you know what? Nobody helped us, and we made it just fine, and they'll learn. And if we go over there and remove the pain and we just fix it, they're never going to be capable of doing this on their own. We're not going to be here forever. So we certainly can't allow them to be, we can't be enablers. And it's still difficult even now. And they're doing well. Both my kids are really doing well, but there's things that we want to do. And we do bless them occasionally with various things. How do you manage that? You've got 3 adult daughters now, and you've got a whole carload of grandkids like we do. How do you manage that? Has it been a struggle for you?
I feel the same way that you feel often. Is like I'll hear, well, just a couple weeks ago, right? It's like I'll hear that the air conditioning's out on one of their cars, and for them, it's summertime.
Sure. It's a major expense, and it's hot.
And it's like okay, like I feel the pain because I remember what it was like being their age and starting out. I remember that clearly.
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah,
it's hard, and you have. I mean, not that you don't have any money, but it feels like, you don't have much. And I know that's, they all have jobs, they're all employed, so they all have incomes. They're all working and earning it. But I just know that I can fix it. I'm with you. Like, I know that when I see, potentially the tires on their car looking a little bald,
right.
It's like, I could just fix that. Like that could just, they wouldn't have to worry about it. I could just take it away. And, but I don't think, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, and I don't mean this to be negative or sound negative on you guys, so please don't take it that way.
No.
I don't think about it in terms of like, nobody helped us, they're going to be fine. I don't think of it that way. I think,
it's not a penalty. It's not like, because we didn't get help. It's like we made it in spite of not having any help is what I mean.
And I think about all those, I get you. And I think about all those lessons that you guys learned. I think about all the lessons that we learned. Sonia and I have learned that you can only learn through conflict. You can't learn if it's just everything's comfortable all the time. You can't. And so I feel fundamentally the same way you do in a lot of ways with just wanting to fix things. But I remember when, I'll give you an example. So 2 of our daughters got married while they were still in college. One had 1 year left, one had a half a year left, and I was not a big fan. I wasn't. I mean, I was footing the bill for school. They had scholarships, but I was still footing the bill for school, for college. They had to work to pay their personal expenses and pay their car insurance, but still. But for the tuition and room board, I paid the difference there on the scholarships. And when they wanted to get married, and I'm like, I talked to their talked to the son-in-laws, and I said, hey, right now I'm footing the bill for this. If you guys get married, then that becomes your responsibility. You understand that? Like, are you clear about that? Like, does that make sense? And we talked through that. It wasn't a hey, do you know if you get married, you got to pay for this? It wasn't.
Right,
It was
right.
not that kind of a tone at all. It was just realistic. Like, this is the way this works. And so I wanted to know before they got married, like, what is your plan? If this is going to cost you $18,000 this year, do you believe in debt? Are you going to take on college debt? That first right in your marriage, that early? Are you going to like work hard extra to pay for it? I mean, how are you going to, what would be the plan? And so giving them an opportunity to, even my son-in-laws, right, to an opportunity to learn, because they're young too. And, a couple of them have, come from families that are intact with a dad and a mom. And one of them came from a family that was kind of raised by his mom and his grandma. And he had a stepdad influence for a while, but you're young, man. You don't know what you don't know. And so what we did there was, once I knew their plan, and maybe you could say this is wrong. I don't care. Once I knew what their plan was and they believed that they were going to have to do their plan, then like months later, like I went ahead and we blessed them and said, hey, we'll take care of this.
Yeah.
Some people would say, well, if you knew you were going to do it in the beginning, why wouldn't you just do it? Why would you like hang on?
They wouldn't have figured it out.
They wouldn't have figured it out, and they wouldn't have owned it. They were the responsibility. And the reality was, I wasn't really 100% sure. Like, what if their plan was terrible?
Right.
What if they're like, well, she's going to quit school? Like, well, I don't think that's a great plan. I'm not going to give you money to keep her in school if that's what you guys think together. Like, you got to figure that out, man. So, yeah, I've never been like, they're girls, so maybe there's a little bit of those moments when you have the handout moments. I don't know if you feel that way or not. I've never had boys, so I don't know. There are moments when it's like there's a couple heartstring moments where, you want to bless them.
I'll tell you where all these rules go out the door. I'm just going to own it straight up. I don't care if anybody agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. Grandchildren, it's a whole different story.
I agree.
Like, I got an adult granddaughter. It's in college. And we're close. I'm close to all my grandkids, but this one, she calls me and we're talking. I could hear a little bit of sadness in her voice. And I'm like, hey, what's the deal? And she told me, I said, hey, I can take care of that right now. Give me your Venmo. And she's like, what? I said, I'll take care of that. And then I took care of it a number of times. And finally her mom found out. She goes, Dad, what are you doing? I said, you know what? You just take care of your business. I'll take care of mine. And I slip her some money here and there and take care. I'm going to continue. Like, I don't even care. Like, I'm done with the rules when it comes to my grandkids. I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I want to. I'm going to ruin my grandkids if I want to. But that's probably not good advice.
That's not good advice. We're going to retract that right now. That's not what you mean. That's not what you mean.
No, I'm teasing. I'm having fun, but I'm just teasing. But what I'm saying is that we do have some privileges as grandparents that maybe you didn't have as much as parents. But you touched on something just a second ago that is a really big source of contention for a lot of young adults. And you said, what if their plan is to quit school? So I get in trouble here too, because you know me, I've always got an opinion, right? And I'm not real bashful about sharing it oftentimes. So I've gotten better. You'll have to admit, I've gotten better. I want you to say it publicly. I've gotten better. But
publicly, Big A has gotten better.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing is, like, we don't have all the right answers, right? As parents, we don't. But we have lived some years and we have had some experiences. And I will say, more often than not, our final ideas around big topics probably pan out better than young adults' decisions, as a rule. Not always, but as a rule. What do you do when you know they're making a mistake? Let's just use your daughter, for example, if she'd have quit school. Like, do you intervene there? Do you really go, man, like, we've got to have a long talk? Do you go, you know what, this is your life. You're going to have to suffer the consequences as a result of that. Like, where is the line between support and interference? And I'm not sure that I've got a firm grasp on that. And I'm going to start by telling a quick little story related to that. We've got some very, very close friends, 30 plus year friendship. Their children, same age as our children. And one of them's son-in-law is a client of mine. And we talk pretty regularly. So he and his wife, which is the daughter of my friend, they're having some major conflicts right now, major conflicts. Their parents, my friends, have done extremely well financially, and their disposition and attitude is to bless and to share, not to control. And they've probably done far more than I would ever consider doing in regards to helping financially. It's starting to become a major issue because it disallows the young man to be the man and over his own home. And my friends are always offering vacation opportunities, certain week, certain time of the year. They always pay for it. But my buddy the other day told me, he said, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to go there. I want to go to the mountains and take my own family. But his wife doesn't want to disappoint her parents. And so now they've got this conundrum that they've worked themselves into with great people. Everybody here is great people. They're blessing, and it's becoming an interference. What can we do, Wally, as parents to not allow that to happen in our relationships? How can we be mindful to pay attention? What are some of the key questions that we can ask? I know you do a remarkable job with your son-in-laws. I've watched you. I've heard the stories. I've seen how you interact. Tell us about some of those conversations and how you can assure that you and Sonia are not going to be my friends the way they're interfering with their children's lives. How do y'all deal with that?
We went through this journey when one of the things that was unexpected when our daughter started to get married was that, and every daughter went through this. It was so interesting. We didn't realize it until the second one, was that they went through this period of essentially not wanting, because we were very involved with our daughters. We weren't controlling. We weren't helicopter parents. We were not. Like, we were not. Some people may have thought that because they saw our relationship, like our daughters were close. Like, we would spend hours in the living room talking on a weeknight, right? And everybody wanted to be there. The daughters, when they were growing up, like when they got to be mid to late teens, this changed because the topics of conversation got much more personal. But when they were younger, they knew one of them was going to get in trouble or get talked to or talked, through a situation. They would bring their sisters to the living room for support. They'd all sit there.
It's a family meeting.
Yeah.
I got to bring my board of directors here, my support group with me.
The benefit to the youngest one was that she got like 5 years of coaching essentially, right? But when they got married, what it ultimately came down to was they didn't want to disappoint us because we were so close. And so when they recognized that, and because we were, I think maybe with Ashley, in the very beginning, the first 6 months or so, we may have voiced our opinion without asking more than we should have, trying to be helpful, not trying to control, really not trying to control. Just, we'd be in conversation and they would say something and we would, verbally try to fix it for them. And that was our opinion. We didn't ask the permission. And so by the time the second one came along, we kind of realized, got married, we kind of realized that, okay, this whole disappointment thing. So we hit it head on. We just went to each of them and said, look, we sat down with Simeon and Ashley, sat down with Caleb and Julia, and I sat down later on with Parker and Jenna. Mom and I did, Sonia and I did. And we just said, look, this is happening. Like we know this is going to potentially happen about you being, disappointed. And as the husband, like there's a lot of pressure there. Like, I don't want to disappoint my parents as the daughter. And that, what does that leave the husband? Like you're talking about, right? Like it's their role to lead. And so, together, I mean, they do things together, but at the end of the day, the way that they run their households is that, there's someone has to have a red button at the end of the day. So, the husbands have it. That's what they've all agreed to. And so this whole idea of disappointing us. And so we had it head on and just, hey, look, this is happening. We want to fix this. So going forward, unless you guys ask us for our opinion on things, or we ask you for permission to share our opinion, we're not just going to give our opinion anymore. And that helped a ton, like right in the beginning. And it was hard though too, because the girls were like, "Oh, we don't want to disappoint you. I'm like, well, you got to grow up. Like you're going to disappoint us. You're going to make decisions that we wouldn't make, and we would be disappointed a little bit because we wish you maybe make a different one. We're not going to say that to you. We're not going to treat you any differently, but you inherently know that, we would do it differently. And so just, it's okay to disappoint us. Like you get to make your own choices, like go do it and have fun and live in life. And so,
let's hold on for a second before you go further. Let's talk through this, because this is a big topic. This is a big thing. It's even big for me. It's big for my girls. I've gone to both of my girls, had very deep conversations around this very topic. Both of them have said, Dad, one of our biggest fears in life is that we're going to disappoint you. Right? They say that, right? Straight out of the gate.
And they're how old now?
40 and 37.
Yeah.
And they still feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to convince them, hey, you're an adult and you're good. And my girls are great.
Yeah.
They're great. You work with them, and they're great. How do we convey? I love what you said, is you went to them and said, hey, you maybe disappoint us, but it's okay. Give them permission to make their own choices. But even if my mom, I was thinking through, my mom's still alive. She's 88 years old. If she were to say, Aaron, you're going to do some things that's probably going to disappoint me, but it's okay, I think that would crush me, because I don't want to disappoint my mom, even with permission. I want my mom to be proud of me. I want my mom to be glad that I made a good decision. And knowing that I disappointed her, I think it's a powerful word when you say, you've disappointed me. And I think that's because I've had such lengthy conversations with Brooke and Holly around that. I'm just thinking
maybe
through
that
it for
word.
myself.
Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe there's a different word
Give
for that.
Freedom.
That's definitely the word that I've
freedom.
used, and maybe it's not the best word to use.
I don't know.
At the end of the day, maybe that's not the best thing, the best word to use in that way. But I think fundamentally the important thing is that we communicate, especially, there's different ages, right? We have guys listening that have younger kids. There's age of accountability as they get older, right? They get more responsibility and all those things. And so you communicate more freely and you give them more rope, if you will. And so that happens all the way through. And as they get to be teenagers, especially young adults, I think it's really important to communicate that even if they make a decision that they know you're not going to agree with, unless, here's a caveat, for us, we did share with them, look, if we ever feel that you are making a sinful decision or a catastrophic decision, we will share our opinion, our belief on that thing. And because I think I would do that. I would want anyone to do that with me.
Pointing out the blind spots.
Yeah. So I think that's
important.
I
think the important thing that you're doing here is you're building that emotional support between you and your family, yet you're creating boundaries.
But you support them, like even if, so for instance, we had our oldest daughter and son-in-law. Before they had kids, they had got one dog. They got another dog. Well, I just know that having two dogs is a lot more work than one dog. And when I hear them talk about their lifestyle and their choices and things they want to do, I'm like, your dog choices aren't matching up with like this. It's just not. And so they never asked us. I never said an opinion about it. But like months later, I think Ashley said to us something about, you guys weren't all for us getting another dog, were you? I was like, no, I wasn't. But we love your dogs. They're great. We even watch them for you, right? We support you 100%. You made the decision. Now I'm going to support you, right? Like I'm going to be all for you. It's not that just because you make a different decision and I'm going to like manipulate you or hold that against you somehow. Like, no, man, if it's not sinful, I'm going to support you 100%. Like, let's go. And so I think that context around the relationship as your kids get older, is very, very important.
You've touched on something that we're not going to get into deeply today. We may do another episode on this, but you just made a comment that we're also going through with some friends of ours, and you use the terminology sinful. That's missing the mark spiritually related to Christianity, right? So
Based on the
fortunately,
belief system that they subscribe to as well, right? Like,
that's what I was
yeah,
going to say is
yeah,
that y'all both subscribe to the
yeah,
same belief
yeah.
system.
That's important.
And so, in light of that, though, we've got other friends that have adult children that's made some alternative lifestyle choices, and it's caused a monumental disruption in their family. And so now we're down to the fact of what is condoning it, what actions are condoning it, what actions are separating you from that adult child, what should I do and not do as a way of caring and loving and supporting versus condoning versus being in direct contradiction to the lifestyle that they've chosen, which is a whole nother level of communication, a whole nother level of boundaries, and maybe at some point we'll dive into that even further. But
If someone's going through that right now, I would encourage you to, depending on your belief system. For us, we're Christ followers, so depending on your belief system, get some help and some encouragement and some guidance, like within your body of believers where you worship, and maybe even some professional help from people you can trust. I think it's really important.
Don't do it alone.
No, because those are really tough, really challenging, really complex, dynamic topics. For sure. They are.
I like it that you've really laid out the boundaries, the rules of the game with your adult children. See, here's where I've not done a good job. I've not been as proactive as you with your children doing those things. If I could go over and do it again, regain these 20 years of adult children and go back, I would recommend highly being more proactive instead of reactive. It's a lot easier discussion if you know the rules of the game in the beginning, if you've laid out the boundaries, if you've said, these are the things that we're going to do and not do. And this is, my mom did that with Robin and I when we got married. She said, hey, listen, when you get married, you're building your own life. I will never offer my opinion unless you ask.
That's good.
And here we are 43 years later. She's never offered her opinion unless we've asked. And it showed us a great amount of respect. And I'm very grateful, that she did that. And so I'm too quick to give my opinion oftentimes, and so therefore it puts your adult children in a real compromising position with their mate when they're trying to choose loyalty to their parents, loyalty to their spouse. We really put them in a compromising position doing this. So those that are listening today, really think through how you can offer that emotional support and how you can really build those boundaries. So, good job for doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's really by the grace of God that so far that has been is that way, frankly. Because anytime you get relationships and people involved in anything, that creates complexity. For anybody, whether you have little kids right now, teenagers, adulting children, or I think even talking to some guys recently where their parents are aging and starting to act like children again. And so it's almost like,
I hope you're not referring to me.
I don't. Brooke and I had a conversation. I'm kidding. We did.
Oh, okay.
So, but I think there's a fine line, like depending on the age of the age of your children, that our job as parents, and this is how I looked at it. My job as a parent is not to give them a life of comfort. I want to care for them. I want them, right. My primary job was to show them and share with them my belief system ultimately, which was from the Bible. And so that was my first priority. Second priority was to help them learn to be a productive citizen when they launch off on their own. Even on my Come As You Will Be, we talk about Come As You Be a lot in here, which is our kind of 1 to 3 year goal planning system that we use, and in Irish Sharpens Iron Mastermind. And even on there, uh, when we did the Come As You Will Be 3 years ago in 2020 for the 3 year run, one of my goals on there was to launch Jenna, my youngest, into adulthood. Whether that was married or not, she ended up getting married, but it wasn't for the purpose for her to get married. It was helping her launch into adulthood. And that is our goal. Like, that is literally our job as parents.
Right.
And it's not to make life easy for them. It's not. We don't have to make it hard on purpose. Life's hard enough on
right. By itself. It doesn't need any help.
But there's a fine line between support and interference. You can support them, and we need to learn to support them and encourage them. But there is that line that we all need to be mindful of and draw it of what's interference. Where are we interfering? Depending, and I think that really has a lot to do with their age and their maturity.
Wally, I want to mention something else as the children get older, even teenage children, even still at home, they may be dating when they get married. We've been selfish in nature with wanting our kids at home during Christmas, during Thanksgiving, and things like that. And we're very fortunate and lucky to have had them live within 5 minutes of us. We get to see them on a regular basis. So we feel very blessed. But now, Brooke is married to Bill and he's got family, in upstate New York, and they go and visit. And Robin and I had a discussion, and we said we don't ever want them to feel the pressure of having to make a decision to disappoint one or the other. And we gave them permission. You go do what you need to do. We're here. We've been fortunate to have you for years. So I want to talk to the audience that's listening to this right now, because I know for a fact a lot of people that manipulate
really selfish,
children, they're very selfish, and there's an emotional manipulation that they can do. It's like, oh, now you're married, you don't love us like you did. And they put them in this quandary. And I want to be above that as a parent. I want to be able to go to them and set them free and not make them feel any sense of manipulation. So just be mindful of that. If you've got adult children, go above and beyond and take the high road. And it's okay. What will happen? They'll want to even be at your place more because you're so understanding, because you give them the freedom to make the choice without the manipulation. So think through that. Don't be manipulative.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good on you and Robin for thinking through that, and because you had that for so long, it'd be really easy to think, oh, that's ours. What are you doing? What's going on here? And it probably feels that way. Honestly, right? It feels that way.
It does.
But
we want them here.
Yeah,
we want
in reality,
them around
it's
us
not
a lot.
It's you guys did the best thing there. So good on you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, before we end, there's one more area I wanted to talk about just for a second. This is kind of a tough one for all of us, is career guidance and any expectations that you've got for your children. I know a lot of times people live their life through their kids, right? And I see this in sports a lot, these dads that are really into whatever sport and they're living their life through their children again. And I've had friend after friend and family members to burn their children out because they're doing it for their dad or they're doing it for their mom. Or there's a career that you really wanted yourself, but you're trying to mold your children into that career. You've raised 3 amazing daughters. I've raised 2 amazing daughters, and they're doing fine on their own now. What are some of the things that you and Sonia did to form their thoughts or their opinion around career opportunities and any expectations that y'all had or didn't have? How did you voice that to your girls?
So for us, both Sonia and I, with our oldest, we didn't do the best job we could have with Ashley, when she was, probably wasn't until she was about 16, 17. So she had, 15, 16 years of of me kind of being a controlling dad, honestly.
Mm.
Um, trying to make her toe the line, walk the line. This is how things are. And what it actually prohibited me from doing and Sonia from doing, more so that was me than Sonia, was not really understanding who God made her to be and who she was as an individual. Because I wanted her to conform to what I thought was best for her. And I and and I took that too far sometimes. I'll admit it. I did. I've apologized to her for it. It wasn't abusive. It wasn't like that. But I recognized that I did her a disservice. And that started to change when she was about 16. Um, we I think it was through some I can't remember how God brought that to my attention specifically, but whether it was probably through some marriage or, family training through church or whatever, but um I was just like, all right, like this is different. And so from that point forward, we really focused on, okay, who is God designed them to be? Who are they? What do they want? And so for me as a dad, though, I still was like, okay, as you're thinking about going out into the world, I do want you, desire you to choose something. If you're not married, right? Coming out of high school, they weren't married. So it's like, I do desire you to choose a path that's going to help you support yourself, right? So in a way that you think you want to, from the best that you know now, that you want to live. And so the oldest, she wasn't interested in college at all. She kind of knew she wanted to be a mom, a wife and a mom. And so, but I said, hey, what if you didn't get married for 10 years? What are you going to do? And so she went to beauty school. And it was a tough time for her a little bit. It's a rough environment sometimes, especially where she was, I think. But she learned a lot through that. And I figured that, I helped pay for that for her, for that school. And I figured that when she got married, ended up getting married to Simeon a few years later. I said, I just basically gave you, I think it was like, I forget what the number was, like $80,000 as a gift because no one has to cut your hair for the next 80 years of your life or whatever. So anyway, it's kind of funny, but yeah, so helping them understand who they were and not trying to change them. And sometimes like the other two, went to college, they finished, it took them a little longer to figure out kind of what they wanted to do. And one of them, frankly, still, graduated college, but she's trying to figure it out still, but she's trying to figure it out and according to how she's designed and how God's made her and understanding her personality and how she can best serve with work and make a living and all that. So on the business side of things,
Hold on before we go there. Hold on before you go there. Let's go back for a
Sure.
second because this is an important tidbit. I think we need not miss it because it'd be easy to gloss over it. I'm going to go back to you when Ashley was 16.
Yeah.
To your own admission, you made some bad choices. Let's just say they weren't terrible, but they were bad. You've also stated at that point in your life, you didn't have trusted advisors.
No.
You didn't have a board of directors. You didn't have men that were investing in your life that would point out your superpowers, your kryptonite, your blind spots. You didn't have people that would throw the flag on you. You didn't have people that you were being held accountable to. How differently could it have looked for you if you had had men that had context to your environment, that would be willing to call you out, that you are willing to subject yourself to their scrutiny, that you invite their feedback? How much differently could it have looked for you then?
It's impossible to paint the picture, hindsight being 2020, of what could have been. But having gone through a bunch of stuff, right, through those years of not having that. And I mean, we were faithful in church. We ministered. It was a good Bible believing church that we were in. And we did Bible studies. And a lot of times people think, oh, I got an accountability partner for porn or something, and that's all there is. Like, that's it. Because a lot of churches, that's how it is. Honestly, it is. They don't really have a framework
Dive deep.
for helping people to get vulnerable and transparent and to be able to really reach into our lives where we really need, accountability, to show ourselves accountability. We really need help. And so, man, there would have been a number of things that would have been helpful along the way. There'd definitely been some pain in our kids and our marriage, and that we wouldn't have business, especially. I'd probably have another, I don't know, couple seven figures in the bank. Frankly, not gonna
You
lie,
could, you
I'll get it at
could,
a
you
different day.
could. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, things definitely could have been different. And I think we often think of like, well, our parents weren't, especially if we think, well, our parents made a bunch more mistakes than we made as parents because they didn't have access to anything, really, right? There wasn't a lot of training and teaching around these things.
Right.
That generation, especially, super private. So, there's a lot of it didn't occur. You don't have that. Every listener, everybody, every guy right now, you got a family, you're married, running a business. You don't have any more excuses.
No.
There's zero
The
excuses.
tools are there, the accountability's there, the access is there. There's no geographic limitations because there's so much online that you can learn. You can be involved in these groups virtually. You can have support at the touch of a button. You can ask a million questions. You give permissions to guys to help you accomplish your goals, your dreams. And I'll be honest with you, I'll just say it straight up. That's the reason we started Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to provide an environment that was conducive to learning, that was allowed you a place to be vulnerable, to share these challenges. Listen, you didn't do wrong. You did all you knew to do, right? Sure. It wasn't intentional. You just didn't have the people around you that could help you make better decisions so that we can learn from other people's perspective so that we can have that level of accountability. I just didn't want it missed, the things you could have done differently. Yeah. And that's our desire and our goal for people listening. There's opportunities out there for you to circumnavigate, the system rather than doing it the conventional way that you've always done. There's different ways to do it.
I was talking to you, I had a phone call just before we started recording this podcast. And it was a guy that's been in ISI. It's been our mastermind group. He's actually started the same day as I did. So we've been in for, going on 7 years. It's just crazy in October. But we were talking about, we're growing the business here at View from the Top and making some decisions about, bringing on some new team members and just expanding some opportunities for folks to serve and, hit our part of our vision is to help influence and, change, help influence and impact, the lives of 10,000 generations of families. And so in order to do that, what God's called us to, we've got to, make some different decisions from a business perspective. And so we're working on that. And he's in a marketing agency that he's built, which is a fantastic agency. He grew the company himself and he's been in sales. And so I was getting some counsel from him around some sales activities. And we were talking about just, I forget how we got there, but it was something about how he came, what was important for him to join a mastermind group. And here's somebody that had actually had some success. So he was doing a lot of things right, finding what the world of people around us deem as success. But what he really was missing was significance, and how the significance part for him has really been about relationships. Both relationships he has at work and how he grows his team, the relationships he has in his family. It's so fun to watch him, what he was 7 years ago and what he is today, and how he loves his wife and serves his kids and leads them, and the time he spends with them, how intentionally, he wouldn't have done any of that if he had not put himself in a place where he was going to show himself accountable. He was willing and vulnerable to be challenged. And I just, I could go on and on, but I don't know how, it's just we don't have excuses anymore, whether it's this or something else. It doesn't matter. We'd love to have you here, but it's find something. Don't make excuses for yourself on the relationships you have with your children and your parenting relationship with your wife, the relationships that you have, in your business.
You've touched on two of our core values in this last 2 minutes, right? Relationships matter most and no excuses.
There you go.
And we want you guys to go out there and make it amazing. That's what our goal is. Listen, there's a couple of resources we wanted to tell you about. One of them is a book called Boundaries. Henry Cloud wrote this book along with John Townsend, and it is a phenomenal book. It really helps you to understand how to build those boundaries in a real solid way. Brene Brown has got some good TED Talks out there. Also, she's got one that she did called The Power of Vulnerability. It is absolutely a game changer. So go watch that. Get the book Boundaries. Check it out. If I could just give a synopsis or a summary over this episode, I just want you to really do a deep dive. Just quit listening to this, at the end and turn it off. Take a couple of minutes and do an evaluation if you've got children. Hopefully, some of these things that we've shared with you is going to be beneficial for young children. But if you've got older children, you can walk on the journey with us, right? We welcome emails and support at our email address. Wally will give it to you at the end of the show. But email us and just let us know if there's a way we can help you further. But just think about the emotional support and the boundaries that you've built in your family structure and how that will pay big dividends. The financial assistance part for me has probably been the most difficult thing to work through. I want to be a good steward over the resources that God has given me. And with that, it's hard decisions, and it's not always the easy decision. And usually it's a harder decision is the right decision. So don't take the pathway of just the least resistance. Really think through that. And as your children get old enough for career guidance and the expectations that you might feel, sit down and have the conversation with them like Wally did with his 3 daughters and really give them permission to make their own decision, let them know what the boundaries are, be proactive in your life as you go forward in raising your kids. Listen, always remember, you can make more money at work. You can start new companies, but you only get one go through with those kids. Make it the best, give them the time that's necessary to foster those great relationships, and the dividends will be exponential.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening in today. And do what Big A just said. Take a few minutes right now, stop what you're doing, make some notes how you can be more intentional with your family. If you have questions about what we do here at View from the Top, we would love to help. Just reach out to us. You can reach us out at pod, at viewfromthetop.com. Just email us pod at viewfromthetop.com. Happy to answer any questions, point you in the right direction. Even if we can't help you, we have a pretty big network and a lot of outside resources, even if we can't help you here, that we'd love to get you in the right direction. You can also check out what we do here at View from the Top at viewfromthetop.com. Just go to any old browser, pull out your phone, bring up Safari, Chrome, and go to viewfromthetop.com. And that's it for this week. We will see you next week.